Are we recording? I think we are. All right, so this is just a quick video to demonstrate and basically talk through a real basic straight-in VFR landing in the A-10. I'm in the A-10C, and so it'll be mostly from this perspective, but this should apply to the A-10A as well, just because I'm not going to be doing anything that's A-10C specific. I'm just going to be using a single waypoint in front, and then, most of the basic flight instrumentation, altitude, attitude, speed, that whole thing. All right, so we're going to fly forward here a little bit. Waypoint 1 intersects with final approach to runway 06 at Sochi Adler. And let's see if we can put it down smoothly. I'm going to unpause here, I think. Now I'm going to unpause. There we go. I'm in active pause mode currently. My zoom's messing up. And let me just call for inbound. Sochi, inbound.
Pontiac 2-1, inbound.
Pontiac 2-1, fly heading 330, 415, QFE 29.93, runway 23, to payment altitude.
It wants us to fly heading 330. We're not going to do that. We're just going to fly straight ahead to waypoint 1 because it puts us on a better angle. So hell with them. But here we go. So we're at about 1,800 feet. I'm just going to get my speed up here. Get a little bit of trim so that we're nose level. Waypoint 1 is about 2 miles from the starting position. Sochi Adler is kind of off over there. At about half mile to waypoint 1, I'm going to start turning in. I'm actually climbing here, so let's push the nose back down. I don't want to get too much faster than 200 knots. So we'll just kind of trim for that. We can descend a little bit, that's fine.
Pontiac 2-1, cleared for visual,
Right.
contact tower.
We're going to turn towards heading 060 now, and that should put us roughly on the runway. I probably overshot it a little bit, but that's fine. We can get lined up again. All right. There's the runway. They're out ahead of us. So I'm turning a little bit more past it again, just because I did overshoot it just a little bit. Power back to about 70% fan speed because we do want to slow down and start descending here. We are on final approach. There's the runway in front of us. Right there. That's it. Okay. And we're probably a little high right now, so we're going to bring the nose down just a little bit and bring that power back. We're also going to get our landing gear out now. And I think we were told to contact towers, so... Sochi, request landing.
Pontiac 2-1, request landing.
And while we're waiting for that asshole, we're below 180 knots, so we're going to get our flaps out. We're going to go full flap right now. Bring the nose back down. I'm basically, if you look in the center of the screen, I'm basically trying to keep the total velocity vector, which is that thing in the middle of the HUD, basically right where I want to land on the runway. Doing about 138 knots here. I'm giving it a little bit of power just to maintain this glide speed and keep this approach angle. 140 knots is fine.
Altitude.
About 500 feet coming across the river, or the shoreline here. Very little corrections. I'm barely moving the stick at all, just kind of keeping it all centered. Little power corrections, little power corrections. Coming down, coming down. Gonna start leveling out here, arrest the descent, power to idle. Hold it off. Apply the brakes. Didn't even use the air brake there. You can use the air brake if you need to slow your descent. And we'll just come to a complete stop right here. Turn our nose wheel steering on so we actually have some movement authority. And that's it. That's a landing. That was pretty short. Let's I'm gonna sacrifice this airplane and we're gonna go do another one. So say goodbye to this airplane. And we're off the runway. Eject. That should take off in a second. Because we do have some nose up trim there. Or it'll just explode. That's fine. New airplane time. Alright, so here we are again. Get my zoom levels right. We'll get our trim set. Give a little bit of power because we're kind of slow. But the real trick is just very little correction. Okay? Very, very small corrections in the controls. Alright, we're going to try not to overshoot the runway here this time, so I'm going to start turning towards heading 060, roughly at about when waypoint 1 reads 0.5 miles remaining. We can sort of keep this altitude here, we're 1,400 feet. Alright, we're going to start turning towards it. A nice, gentle turn. And I might have overshot it a little bit again. That's fine. In fact, I did. There it is off to our left, so we'll get lined up again and bring that nose down. Sochi, inbound. No, you don't want to do it? Fine. Screw you, we're landing without A-10C this time. Anyway, let's get ourselves lined up again. We definitely want to make sure that the sight picture of the runway is perfectly lined up. That's probably the most important thing. Okay? And once again, that total velocity vector, that's this guy, this little moving thingy in the HUD. That's what we want to point at the runway and basically keep it there as best we can. Try this again. Sochi, inbound. And it's being... I think voice attack's being dumb. Alright, so landing gear is coming down. Speed's going to start to come down. Give it a little bit of up trim. You don't want to keep holding back pressure on the stick, so make sure you trim up as you slow down. We're going to go basically full flap right here. Bring that power back so we get her slowed down. And I'm pretty well lined up here. I'm not using the rudder basically at all, which is good. A little more nose up trim. We're on a good angle here. The angle of attack indexer tells me I'm a little low, but honestly, for a VFR landing, you don't really need to pay attention to it. And this is a pretty long runway, so we're pretty good. Getting a little slow, so I'm going to give it a little bit of power. And a little bit of nose down. Basically maintaining 133 there. Okay, power back. Crossing the threshold, power comes to idle. Just fly her down onto the runway. Bring the nose up. Hold her off, hold her off, hold her off. The airplane will touch down when it wants to. There it goes. Okay, apply the brakes. Apply the air brake if you want. Get our nose wheel steering on so we can actually keep her straight on the runway. All right. Bring her to a stop. This thing does not stop on a dime because its brakes suck, but there you go. That's, come on, stop. That's landing in the A-10. It's pretty easy. The airplane flies pretty stable, especially when it's not loaded. So it's good for practice and getting yourself lined up, and then you can introduce more complexities by landing with, you know, armaments still on and, you know, maybe a fuller fuel load. You know, it's a pretty light airplane, so it makes it good. You know, about 135 to 140 knots on final approach is what you want. Keep that total velocity vector pointed at the touchdown zone and just make very small corrections and you should be good to go. All right? Have fun.